Similar to how doing shadow work upon your own journey helps you to embody more and more of your true self, so too will the collective shadow work of your social memory complex allow it to then blossom and flourish and allow you to exist as a population that is both individual to yourselves and collectively one being. Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott, and I'm delighted to return to the channelings of Quo. Quo comes directly from LL Research, the same entities that help to channel the raw material, the Law of One, that I've discussed extensively on my channel. And Raw is also a part of the Quo collective. These are conscious channelings as opposed to unconscious, which was in the raw material. They are a social memory complex. In fact, they're a collective of different social memory complexes that answer questions of a spiritual nature right now through LL Research. And each session has amazing, unique insights and ideas that come through. It's always really wonderful to read the channelings of Quo. This was the most recent channeling available from March 28th, 2026, and they cover a variety of different topics, including Edgar Cayce, the importance of intention over method, helping young children to listen, the infinite holographic nature of creation, understanding worship, processing our collective shadow. So much more is a part of this. We begin with Jim McCarty channeling. I am Quo, and am with this instrument at this time. We are most honored to feel the presence of so many seekers of truth that have taken the time out of their busy schedules to seek more of the Creator's love within everything and everyone they come in contact with. This is the nature of third density experience. Even though many of you here are wanderers who have come from distant planets and higher densities, you too go through the veil of forgetting, and you too must learn those lessons again as you've learned them so many times before. So we thank you for the presence and for your open hearts. If you would do us a small favor when we give our responses to your queries, if you would look at them as something that is helpful, then take them and use them. If they don't ring of any particular value to you at this time, set them aside. That would let us speak more freely and share our opinions with you, for this is something that helps us to grow as much as it helps you to grow. Serving others is always something that helps positively oriented entities throughout all the densities of creation. So at this time, we would ask if there is a query with which we may begin. I have one Quo. I was recently reading a channeling session in which Haton had said that the framework within which one seeks is not as important as the seeking itself. And that had a profound impact on me, so I'd love to hear you expand on that a little bit. And also, at the time I read it, I was thinking the feeling I get when I'm actively doing what I think of as spiritual seeking is a very full heart. And I feel like I'm being nourished on some kind of soul level. Sometimes I also get that when I'm at my job working with children with disabilities or when I'm making art. And I wonder from your perspective if you could comment on whether those other activities are also ones in which you can seek spiritually, and is that as an effective form of seeking as when you are doing it in a particularly religious or spiritual context. I am Quo, and we are very grateful to be able to attempt to answer your query, my brother. For this is a concept that everyone deals with, whether consciously or subconsciously. Your desire to seek the truth of the unity of creation and the Creator everywhere existing in order for it to know itself better is something that you do in your own way. If you wish to develop a certain ritual, a process that has meaning to you, that structures the seeking, that is perfectly fine. It is, however, not necessary to develop any particular process, for to set your intention to seek to serve every time you take a breath, take a step in your life, you are serving the Creator. You are giving of yourself in whatever way comes in your way, whether it is helping a child find its mother in a crowded place that they are shopping, whether it is stopping to help someone that has lost their way home, or perhaps making a donation to a charity that helps people that are suffering various illnesses. If you set your intention to be of service in your seeking, That is the foundation upon which you can build whatever structure you wish to use. This is what we have done in our own life path, and we have found it very helpful. Occasionally, we may make a certain structure to see how it works in a certain situation. It is well to be flexible in your choices of structures or lack of structures. You are the creator, and as Ross said, there are no mistakes. However, there are surprises. And the surprises are that you can make no mistakes. A conundrum, of course. This is third density. We use these terms to help give you the feeling of freedom, that you can make your next step in whatever way you wish, as long as the intention for making that step is to be of service to others and to discover the truth of the Creator everywhere around you. Is there a further query, my brother? No, I think that's great. Thank you so much. I am Quo. We thank you, my brother. Is there another query at this time? Thank you, Quo, for listening to us. I am tasked with teaching young children new ways to listen, and I'm just seeking any wisdom or perspective you might have on teaching children in elementary and intermediate school about ways to listen better. I am Quo, and we are aware of your query, my sister. Ah, the young child, so willing to absorb information, so willing to listen if they are spoken to from your heart. They are new to this world in most cases, and as time goes on, they grow according to how people who have an open heart like you have shared the love of the Creator coming through your heart to the children that you're teaching to listen. For they are still closer to the Creator than they will be as time goes on, just as a natural process of being born into the third density illusion and moving forward in whatever way they are taught or feel. So if you can set your intention to share whatever you share, to teach them to listen on the basis of your love, the Creator's love flowing through you, then you will be communicating with the Creator within each child, whether it is kindergarten, grade school, junior high. The more this can be done at an earlier age, the more the love of the Creator becomes a foundation for the child to do everything the child will ever do. And most of what children do is listen and then repeat what they've heard and to amplify it with that love that you have given them. Is there a further query? No, thank you very much. I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. Is there another query at this time? Question. Quo. Edgar Cayce spoke of a tiny particle. I don't know if it was a cell. It may have been smaller than a cell that has a whole universe within it. What is the smallest particle that would have the equivalent of a whole universe, and what in the world would that be like? I am Quo, and we are aware of your query, my brother. We must tell you that there is no end to those particles of any kind that can contain an entire universe within them. Every mote of dust in your streets, every leaf on your trees, everything that you can imagine, and every particle of these things that you can imagine can contain a universe, for the entire universe is infinite in every direction. The galaxies are infinite. The dust on your car is infinite. There is only infinite. There's only the Creator, and no matter which direction you go, you will discover the infinity of the Creator. Another universe, and another moving infinitely in all directions, 360 degrees, infinitely. Is there a further query? Yes, quote, Edgar Cayce has had, I think, a profound influence in America and around the world with his work. Was it intended from the beginning? Was it recognized that Edgar would have that degree of impact, or was just simply Edgar, through his free will of achieving this level of achievement that any of us, if we fully dedicated ourselves, could achieve? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. The one known as Edgar Cayce, as well as each entity on this planet and all planets, has made choices before the incarnation to be of service in one way or another. Some entities, such as Edgar Cayce, have, through previous incarnations, developed abilities that might be seen as more psychically oriented, more telepathically oriented, more open-hearted. There's really no set level of words to describe the abilities of a person such as Edgar Cayce, who could go into what you might call a trance state and make contact with the Akashic records of planet Earth and give people information that would inspire them according to their own previous incarnations. For all choose in some way or another to be of service to the one infinite Creator, to help the Creator to know itself better. This is why we are all here. Each of us are attempting to do that. All of humanity is like various facets on a jewel, infinite facets on a jewel that have abilities of one kind or another. The one known as Edgar Cayce had these abilities because of previous incarnations and his desire to be of more service in the incarnation that he shared not very long ago on your planet from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, to the Association of Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach. Is there another query, my brother? Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. At this time, we would contact the one known as Austin and speak through him. We are Quo. Austin channeling. I am Quo, and I am now with this instrument. We settle into our connection with this instrument and allow him to prepare more fully, to allow our thoughts to flow more freely. We would reiterate again our gratitude at the invitation to join this circle of seeking. We respond to your call in a desire of service, and yet we also receive from this interaction our own catalyst, our own grist for the mill. We are able to learn from this interaction. Our beingness evolves with yours as you seek to grapple with and understand the nature of your catalyst and your call for deeper understanding. We are able to radiate that which we have been able to integrate on our own journey in hopes that it may serve you. And in this service, we receive your own unique beingness, your own radiance, and this may inform again how we share with you. This is a dance back and forth, and our ability to interact with you is colored by how you receive our information and how you utilize it and integrate it. We look upon you with great admiration for you being the incarnate beings within the space-time of third density, have the much more difficult task, you may say, of radiating the call for service upon your planet that you may tend to is great. And we understand that this desire to serve is what has brought you to this circle of seeking and what causes you to ask for our guidance. We are honored by this responsibility for sharing that which we have gained. At this time, we would ask if there's another query in this circle, to which we may respond, we are Quo. Hello, Quo. I am hoping you can expand on the idea of worship in relation to the one infinite creator. I often find that when I think about that word, my mind goes to some Old Testament entity baggage with the idea of worship, and I wonder if you could expand on it beyond that. I am Quo, and am aware of the query, my brother. Indeed, this is a very deep and nuanced query, and our response will be perhaps more general than some seekers may prefer. For this concept identified within your query as worship is one which has many different flavors or meanings upon your planetary sphere. Indeed, we would first touch upon the ways in which this concept has been in some ways distorted by that which you would identify as organized religion, as the power structures and institutions that are built up around the seeking spirit of the human being, those institutions that attempt to contribute to and facilitate, yet at the same time control and subdue the infinite spirit within the human being that is ever calling out to understand and grapple with the nature of your existence. These institutions, you may say, have had many millennia of influence of both positive and negative traits. The service to others and service to self influences are alive and well within these world-spanning institutions. The very concept of worship can be seen from a certain perspective to be a giving up of one's own sovereignty. It can be a demand called upon the seeker by these institutions, a task, you may say, to give up your beingness in service of something greater that you do not have direct access to and that is not innate in your being. There are various ways to impose structures upon the concept of worship that cause the seeker to continually give up this sovereignty, to create more separation and distance between the self and the one infinite creator. We would encourage any seeker who has been raised and influenced by these institutions, who's had a certain concept of worship instilled upon them that causes distress and distortion and confusion, to examine the nature of this worship deeply, to carry this concept into your personal meditations, into your heart of being, to evaluate it within the heart of your own sovereignty and your own power, to evaluate whether or not it is truly of service to you and your journey to be of service to others. For there are many distortions that you may discover, and how you orient to the concept of worship can be deterrent upon this path. However, from our perspective, there is indeed a great positive aspect of the concept of worship for the seeker on the positive path. Indeed, we would say that in some way, any positive seeker who is dedicated to a path of spiritual seeking may in one way or the other find themselves in worship, whether intentionally so or not. This more positive orientation of worship has a quality of not just bowing down to an external force, but a recognition of the infinity within the universe that exists, not just outside of the self, but within the self. There is a recognition that the incarnate being within the third density, which you are, is existing within a veil of forgetting. That this connection, this innate unity with the one infinite creator and the incarnate being is hidden from the self, and yet you hear its call. The truth of unity resonates with your soul. And from this precipice, from this hearing of the call, one may choose in faith to lay down all aspects of the self that have been accumulated over your lifetime. Not to give away your power, but to discover that these aspects of self have in many ways been covering up and concealing your innate connection with the one infinite creator. And in taking the posture of worship towards the one infinite creator, one may set aside those aspects of personal beingness, what we have called the personality shell, or even aspects of ego that have been built up and have allowed you to move about your third density in certain ways, but perhaps do not serve you on your spiritual journey. And setting these things aside through worship, through the desire to come into contact with intelligent infinity, with the one infinite creator, with the infinite mystery of the universe, one can find the power more readily, not just outside of the self, but within the self, and realize that these distinctions of inner and outer are illusory. And though they are illusory, they still exist. The necessity of the will to pierce this illusion still exists. It is in this necessity and the expression of your will as worship of the one infinite creator that allows you to more fully embody this connection, to dissolve more and more of this illusion so that you may, as you walk the veiled path within the third density, be more innate in your connection with the one infinite creator. You may walk in faith, allowing this illusory distance between the self and the creator to have less of an influence so that your own personal will may be in alignment with that of the one infinite creator. This concept of worship comes from this necessity of the third density self to lose the self, to forget this connection, and to then again seek the connection. It can be useful to feel small and sometimes to feel as though the universe expands infinitely beyond the self, because this puts one in an orientation of attempting to seek the greatness of the one infinite creator. But a successful worship, as we would identify it, is one which does not emphasize the smallness or insignificance, but rather one which seeks to dive so deep into the smallness that one comes out the other side in recognition that one may be both infinitely small and infinitely large, and at one with the infinite creator. Is there a follow-up to this query, my brother? That was beautiful. I'm grateful for your answer. Thank you. We are quo, and we thank you, my brother. Is there another query at this time? I have a question. I know the importance in my own soul's journey of doing my personal shadow work and how that has helped me to grow and transform and create new things in my life. But I'm confused about collective shadow work because I also understand that when we put our attention on things, it grows. Is it important for us as individuals to process the collective shadow out loud together, or is that actually creating more of the collective shadow? I am quo and am aware of the query, my sister. We appreciate the nuanced presentation of such a query. We would emphasize the importance of this query at this particular time upon your planetary sphere. For you are at a certain point of transformation, the transformation and transition from third density to fourth density, which will naturally encourage the population of your planet to form a social memory complex. However, before the social memory complex can be fully formed, what you have identified within your query as the collective shadow must also be processed, as your individual shadows must be processed for you to become and realize your whole integral being. Similar to how doing shadow work upon your own journey helps you to embody more and more of your true self, so too will the collective shadow work of your social memory complex allow it to then blossom and flourish and allow you to exist as a population that is both individual to yourselves and collectively one being. The nuance within your query of desiring to aid in this transition and in this process of grappling with the shadow, paired with the understanding that placing attention upon certain things serves to energize them, is a careful and difficult concept to unravel, but we will attempt our best through this instrument. The basic understanding comes from the idea that you are not fully conscious beings, and your collective population is not fully conscious either. You have a vast unconscious mind that is, due to the veil of forgetting, somewhat inaccessible to you from the conscious sense. And so too does your social memory complex have a vast, at this time unconscious mind. You may say that the chaos of the population upon your planet is indicative of the conscious mind of your social memory complex being confused due to the chaos within the unconscious mind. Your shadow work that you do on your personal journey is an attempt to reveal the unconscious to the conscious. Shadow work, in this sense, serves as a portal to then discover those things about your being that have been hidden, that have been subdued, suppressed, and repressed, that are outside of your immediate attention but nevertheless continue to animate your actions and thoughts, to dwell upon the darkness within, to allow it to fester. Through only giving it attention without the desire to bring it to light does indeed help to energize these things. However, this energizing is indeed a mechanism of intelligent energy. For in order for a distortion to be balanced, it must be fully recognized, and to be fully recognized, it must be energized and accentuated and nuanced. It must stand out to a perception in a clear and obvious way, so that the conscious mind has a concept to relate to, a portal to travel through, so that the distortion itself may be brought into the heart of being in its full understanding and its full beingness, and allowed to transform and heal within the self. The collective population upon your planet may do this work as well, but we would say that to facilitate this work on a collective level is an incredibly challenging and nuanced task, one that we would recommend to any seeker who feels called to do so. Yet we would caution the seeker that this task of facilitating collective processing of the collective shadow can be one fraught with difficulty and missteps. This too is part of the plan, the design of the system. You are not intended to operate perfectly and to arrive upon your planet and fix all of the problems from your simple beingness. Part of your plan in incarnating upon this planet was not just to serve, but also to discover more of the self through the catalyst available here. And your planet at this time is rich with catalyst. There is much to be discovered about the self in the attempt to bring healing and understanding to the collective shadow through how one may misstep and falter upon this journey. However, this is one of the most integral and important tasks for seekers who feel called to at this time. You probably recognize as you look out upon the surface of your world and how your other selves relate to each other individually and as groups, many positive transformations, but at the same time, there's an increasing confusion and difficulty. This difficulty is a manifestation of the collective shadow, that if you are able, you may help to transform within the self and within the greater self of your social memory complex. We would wrap up, you may say, by emphasizing that this task is for the individual seeker, almost always from the foundation of individual seeking, that any transformation that you may offer to your collective is built upon and requires the personal transformation, that you may not change the world, but you may change yourself, and your selfness that is in the world thus changes the world. This is an important thing to remember, for it can be quite hopeless, you may say, for any individual looking out upon the world desiring to bring peace and healing, yet feeling so small and insignificant against the backdrop of such chaos. But to reach within the self, to tap the potential within the self, is to tap the potential of intelligent infinity and the one infinite creator, which is recognized in its fullest, can indeed change the world through the simple expression of beingness. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister? No, thank you. That was beautiful. I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. Is there another query at this time? Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Quo, for your willingness to serve the one infinite creator. My question is regarding a prayer that a friend of mine repeats about world peace. And what I run up against is having experienced so much growth as a result of a lack of personal peace and suffering. My thought is that if I think I know what's best for the world, that it all should be a world of peace, and that I'm praying for that somehow I'm playing like God, that I know better. and that there's been statements like smooth seas do not create skillful sailors, that point to the fact that this place is possibly a training ground and that the hurdles and obstacles and barriers are the very substance of a greater expansion. So when I hear that we pray for world peace, sometimes I feel like I'm removing people's growth opportunities. And it feels like the higher path is to accept the world as it is and to be shown what is my personal path to inner peace. I just wanted to lay that at your feet for any comment regarding prayer for world peace versus this being a training ground for consciousness. Thank you again for your willingness. I am Quo, and I'm aware of the query, my brother, and again we appreciate the nuance presented within this query. We would note that this query demonstrates the particular challenge for seekers within your third density behind the veil of forgetting. We find that your query is probing the boundaries of wisdom and how to apply love as you have discovered it, and how that love is meant to serve others. We appreciate and honor your personal expression of discovering growth and the ability to discover more of the self through challenge and through difficulty. For indeed, it is our understanding that the quality of experience that the Creator desires involves that catalyst of challenge and difficulty that you, as an incarnate being, come more into contact with, oftentimes traumatic experiences. And the catalyst offered by these experiences allow you to come to know yourself deeper and deeper. It is a question of wisdom that you have posted whether it is best to allow the world to exist in a state of difficulty and chaos and pain and confusion so that it may serve as an environment for other seekers to experience similar catalyst posed by such difficulty. We cannot offer a prescription to how to orient to this question, but we can somewhat speak around it to allow perhaps a new perspective into your own contemplations as you attempt to grapple with this query. Indeed, it is true that challenge and difficulty is fodder for growth for the mind, body, spirit complex, and for your planet as a whole being. But we would ask if you have within your direct perception an entity suffering, and the impulse you feel is to relieve that suffering, and it is within your means to do so, would you feel called to immediately relieve the entity's suffering? And if so, where does this call come from? Is it your personal will that you wish to see their suffering end? Or is it the will of the Creator that moves you, that brings you compassion and allows you to move your mind, body, spirit complex in order that the other entity may cease its suffering? This is not a question that we wish to answer for you, but wish to pose to you to bring into your meditations to understand where the impulse of love and service within your heart comes from, and how you may express it and allow it to manifest in any given situation. We use the example of a more immediate form of suffering before you, for the question that you have posed brings this suffering and difficulty into a very large, abstract picture, that of your planet and the desire for peace upon it. We would also pose the question that if you do your best to relieve an entity's suffering, yet it continues to suffer, is this your responsibility? Did you fail at your task in serving others? This query we also encourage to bring into your meditations and to place it into the context of the suffering of your world. Indeed, you may pray, you may contemplate, and you may focus your meditations all towards world peace and the desire to see world peace, but ultimately it is not your choice to impose upon the world this peace. You can incorporate within your prayers the understanding that you have expressed within your query, that which allows for suffering to exist and to be sacred in its own right, yet honors also the desire within the heart to see all other selves in a state of comfort and peace and joy. These things may coexist, and the key, you might say, to allowing the prayer to have its full effect is to release your personal desire to see the suffering end, and allow the desire within your heart, wherever it comes from, to be the key that the suffering end through your prayer and may not end it. The will of the Creator is done either way, and you are simply attempting your very best to align yourself with that will. We realize that in our response we have not offered a direct answer to this conundrum, for we do not believe one exists for the third density perspective. Yet we do believe that to take it into your heart, this query, and to allow it to shape how you orient to the one infinite Creator and to your planet, your prayers and your meditations will indeed bring catalyst and realization to the self that allows the self deeper understanding and a deeper ability to do the will of the one infinite Creator upon your plane. Is there a follow-up to this query? No, I am grateful to your presence here today. Thank you. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. At this time, we would take leave of this instrument and transfer the contact back to the one known as Jim. We are Quo. Jim channeling. I am Quo, and once again with this instrument, we would ask if there is any final query at this time. I am Quo, and the silence is the answer no. And so we would thank you once again for being authentic in your seeking to serve the Creator in everything that you do. In joining groups such as this and to provide whatever service is possible, we thank your dedication to shining the love and the light of the Creator to everyone around you. This setting of your intention makes many higher density entities dance in joy to see how there can be so much desire to seek and serve the Creator in so many more people as time goes on. So we would at this time take our leave of this group and this instrument. Thank you. Thank you all for being who you are. Adonai, Vasu, Oragas. What strikes me most about this session is how every question, no matter how different on the surface, keeps pointing to the same truth. 7 seekers came forward with 7 different concerns, and Quo wove them all into one thread. D opens with a question about whether spiritual seeking requires a particular framework, and Quo's answer dissolves the entire question. It's the intention that matters. Whether you're working with children, making art, helping a stranger, if your intention is to serve, you are seeking. You are doing the work. The structure is optional. The intention is everything. That becomes the key that unlocks the rest of the session. J1 asks how to teach children to listen. And Quo essentially says that children are already closer to the Creator than you are. Just speak from your heart. Your love becomes the foundation they build on. Whatever they hear, they will amplify with the love you gave them. The teaching doesn't happen through technique, it happens through transmission. J2 asks about Edgar Cayce's tiny particle that contains a whole universe, and Quo's response, there is no smallest particle. Every mote of dust on your car contains an infinite universe. The galaxies are infinite, the dust is infinite, we are surrounded and fused, made of every infinity in every direction. And when J2 follows up about Cayce's impact, Quo describes how each of us makes choices before incarnation, develops abilities across lifetimes, and brings those gifts here in service. We're all facets of the same infinite jewel, and Cayce was simply someone who had said yes to the gifts he had cultivated. M asks about worship, and this answer might be the most healing for anyone who carries old religious wounds. Quo distinguishes between worship as the giving up of sovereignty, which is what controlling institutions have often demanded, and worship as the practice of setting aside the personality shell to discover the infinite Creator within. That reframe is everything. You're not bowing down to something outside of you. You are dissolving the illusion that anything outside of you exists separate from you. K asks about collective shadow work, and this is where it gets practical for our moment. We are transitioning from 3rd to 4th density. Before we can become a social memory complex, we have to process our collective shadow. The same way we process our personal shadow, and Quo says, you are not intended to arrive on the planet and fix all the problems. You're here to discover yourself through the catalyst available here. You change the world by changing yourself, because your selfness in the world, as you transform, the collective transforms. And then they ask the question many of us have wrestled with: if suffering creates growth, are we interfering with people's spiritual development when we pray for world peace? Quo's response is brilliant. They don't answer the question, they turn it back. If a person is suffering in front of you and you can relieve it, would you? Where does that impulse come from? Is it your personal will, or is it the Creator moving through you? The resolution Quo offers is to pray for peace while releasing your attachment to the outcome. Honor the desire in your heart to see suffering end while allowing the will of the Creator to be done. These things coexist. The contradiction dissolves when you stop trying to be God and start being a vessel. So here's what I'm taking from this session, and I invite you to take what serves you and leave the rest. Your intention is the foundation. The structure you build on top of it, the meditations, the rituals, the prayers, those are vehicles, but the foundation is what you are seeking and why. Set your intention to serve, to know the Creator more fully, to love. Then everything you do becomes spiritual work: making coffee, driving to your job, teaching a child, making art, listening to this episode right now. Every particle contains a universe. Every moment contains eternity. Every interaction is sacred when you bring sacred intention to it. The world does not need you to fix it. The world needs you to become more fully yourself, because you are the world. That is the work. That's the only work there ever was. Until next time, keep seeking, keep serving, keep choosing. Higher density beings are dancing in joy at your willingness to be here. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. I invite you to join the Reality Revolution community. You can find the link in the description at school.com/Reality Revolution. You are cordially invited to join me in Anaheim on July 24th through the 26th, where I will help facilitate a shift into your greatest timeline. There's a link right there in the description of this video. You can click on it and buy tickets now before they run out. Sending all my light and love to everyone listening, and welcome to the Reality Revolution. There is a version of your life where everything you have been reaching for arrives, where the money flows, where love opens, where your body heals, where every step carries the frequency of the self you were always meant to be. That life exists, and the path to it has been 8 years in the making. This July, the Reality Revolution comes home to Anaheim. 3 full days of teaching, meditation, and timeline activation. 9 complete sessions designed to move you from the life that you're living to the life that is waiting. Activate your pineal gland, meet your higher self, quantum jump into your greatest timeline, enter the bliss body healing state, step into the flow of large sums of money, open fully to love, shift to a higher density new earth. Friday night, the community celebrates together. Saturday evening, a special appearance from Daryl Anka. And by Sunday evening, you walk out as the version of yourself your future self has been waiting for.
I knew I had to be in the room because it's different from like listening to the meditation videos online.
It was really getting into yourself and how you feel and your timelines.
It's time at the event, and it really is. It's wonderful. So, I would highly recommend to anyone, if you get the opportunity to do it, absolutely do it. It really is amazing.
The Reality Revolution live in Anaheim, July 24th, 25th, and 26th. Hilton, Anaheim. 3 days that will change the trajectory of your life. Claim your seat at www.brianscottlive.com/Anaheim.